Thanks, Karen. Really appreciate the clarity, but also the case study and the social, sort of the commentary as well. Very enlightening. I think for myself, it's that ongoing dialogue, but also the key points you stressed about the enrollment of the customer into the journey and the partnering behavior. So, really thank you for that. I'm now going to segue and talk about the value of artificial intelligence and not go into a lot of technical terms, but really talk about the value for bookending some of the science approaches and also what's happening in the market and share a case study. Earlier, Karen mentioned, in the Xerox case study that the Xerox obviously had a CRM tool and the opportunity to integrate the path to closure into CRM processes can absolutely be done by putting in the right context around that. What we've done at SalesChoice, we have not integrated the path to closure at this point. Simply what we've done is we basically analyze all the data that's within the CRM infrastructure, primarily at this point within the Salesforce, Sales Cloud, and we look at all of the account history and all of the opportunities. And obviously we need fairly large volumes of data, but based on those data patterns and obviously data quality, we can get up to very high levels of predictive accuracy on the forecast right out at the beginning of the sales gate. So this is a relatively new area where deep science is coming in and just analyzing all the patterns to create another kind of point of view in context of other kind of risk perspectives. There's lots of good research now. Sources like Ventana Research have indicated that almost 3/4 of organizations that start to adopt specialized or predictive AI forecasting solutions can absolutely improve their outcomes. Sort of the industry average, just to give you a sense of some context, when companies invest in business intelligence solutions, they can usually get to ROI levels of about 75, 78%. When you start investing in AI and predictive analytics solutions, and particularly on the forecasting accuracy, kind of a good norm is you can get to levels of 82% on a deal-by-deal basis, and you can sometimes get up to levels of 98% on predicting the losses. Again, this is highly dependent on the quality of the data that's inherent in the organization and the leadership practices that are around the operating processes. What I'm going to take you through now is I'm going to talk to you about one particular organization that is a client of SalesChoice. This case is actually on our website as well. And it was an interesting case in the sense that the CEO, Matt, said to us that I'm not going to believe you from the get-go that you guys scientifically can prove this out. So I'm going to track on an Excel spreadsheet and also within our CRM what my Salesforce, numbers are, which is weighted averages. What I think as a CEO, because I'm going to use my old discounted method because the early discussions are not always accurate. We saw the swing that Kevin said that often organizations tend less than 78% of them, get to the levels of accuracy that are needed at the beginning of the presentation. And it was interesting to go through that journey and then see what the results were. So essentially, our software solution can be installed in less than 5 minutes in terms of the initial baseline. We get a point of view in terms of the health of the pipeline, the multiples, what the Salesforce forecast is like versus what SalesChoice says. And in the case with RelationEdge, we were coming into accuracy points of about 93%. So what he had written down as a CEO was discounted, and then our numbers were coming in very close to the CEO. So what allowed Matt to do fundamentally was to appreciate the changes that were happening. Now, over time, our software has evolved, and I really do need to recognize Kevin for a lot of the innovation recently. But what we've started to do is we've drilled down into the science at a deeper level, where now we can track over time what the signals were. So, for example, the science may say that right out at the beginning of the first sales gate, right at the prospect stage, that your odds of winning, let's say, are 80%. And if you go and change your price point, for example, to the amount, it could actually immediately drop the forecast based on the historical win patterns. We're starting to expose the reasons or controllables that maybe you can alter to stay in the game. And again, with user interfaces that are very, very easy and simple to understand. So in the case of the benefits of RelationEdge, I'd say first and foremost, that it was the opportunity to use time as the scarcest resource. So Matt was able to reinvest his time, not worrying about where they were going to land. There was certainly lots of momentum and growth in the business, but could spend more time either coaching or being out on specific calls. Within the software, we can run any scenario across any time dimension. So you can just pick the time periods, and the software will give you a point of view in terms of where you will end. As a result, you can drive more accurate sales forecasts. You can have more peace of mind. And the reality is, learning now in our business that we can achieve an ROI immediately within typically less than 2 to 3 months by just looking at the loss projections. And obviously the behavior needs to be there where people need to stop and really consider if they're going to invest that time elsewhere or continue on the journey and potentially actually lose. So it's like a 7 by 24 hour sales coaching tool in many, many respects. So I'm going to turn things over back to Kevin, and he's going to bookend our discussion regarding best practices and also give some other color commentary and some of his gems that he's learned over the years in terms of, really developing proven sales forecasting process. What you've heard thus far is, I guess you could say we haven't made as much progress as we'd like to make. And, Kevin gave us that clarity of his message at the beginning. And then Karen really talking about the enrollment of the customer and the importance in that two-way conversation and not to make assumptions, which we so often do as sales professionals. And then I'm introducing the value of AI-driven tools. Bringing these two capabilities together is incredibly powerful. And you'll hear more about this as we evolve in our business. So Kevin, over to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Cindy, and thanks to Karen as well. Hopefully you've been able to see in the previous 30 minutes or so why I was so excited in recommending to Cindy that she have this webinar with you in the audience. I really do believe this time-tested methodology of path to closure from Karen, when coupled with the breakthrough software that Cindy and her team have put together, represent two of some of the most explosive solutions that I personally have ever been associated with. What you see on this slide is a chart that came out of my last company called Centerbeam. We were a technical outsourcing company with operations around the world. And what we found is often we would be dealing with clients who would be outsourcing for the very first time. So literally, they didn't know how to evaluate the very process of determining what did they need to do and when did they need to do it. So building off Karen's path to closure, these became the short lists, okay? What we discovered is there were always, almost with zero exceptions, 3 critical tracks that often had to run in parallel: a technical track, a business track, and a legal track. And so our shortlist really said, okay, is there a technical sign-off required? Speak to the customer. Is the legal contract approval required? Speak to the prospect. Is it going to be in-house counsel or outside counsel? And the reason why we found that to be critically important is inside counsel is much more productive. I mean, they are, in fact, a member of the company, members of the employee base. But outside counsel, it's take a number, get in line, and, we'll get to you as soon as we can. So often that would slide deals because it was out of the control of both us and certainly our clients as we waited to see if the outside legal firm would achieve their dates. Is there a specific business case going to be required? Who can participate from the finance team in terms of collecting and validating the data that will be used in the business case assumptions? Has this been completed? Has the customer validated that these numbers make sense and that they're credible to build into the business case? Is there a closure date that has been identified, as Karen pointed out, in path to closure? And do we understand the deliverables necessary to get there? Who ultimately has to approve the transaction? Who are all of the stakeholders that need to have a voice at the table? Those that can say yes, those that can say they are encouraged by it, And more importantly, who are the people who potentially could derail this particular opportunity? And are all of these things scheduled? So in summary, I would say that the bringing together of path to closure with the powerful AI tool of SalesChoice allows you to see more opportunities, win more opportunities, achieve success for you, for your organizations, for your people, and more important, for your prospects and your clients as you start to position yourself as a valued strategic advisor in a long-term relationship. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Cindy, for the Q&A section.